Good morning. In the last session, we tried to understand and look towards something a very interesting aspect, that is the difference between administration, management, and leadership. And we were discussing the concept of how the philosophy of leadership comes into the picture. So we were trying to look towards as to how we need to understand the philosophy of a leadership. So we looked from the difference between how an administration is different, okay, how management is different, and what is the significance of having something called as a very important philosophy that is called as leadership. So we look towards the leadership as something which has got a philosophy of inspiring others, okay, or to drive them to the next level, and speaking about something called as taking them to the word called as excellency. When we look at this, okay, the concept of leadership, the concept of leadership has evolved over a period of time. It is not that it has come all together as a such. So we'll be looking towards the theories of leadership. Okay, so theories of leadership is something very interesting to know. Okay, and we try to look towards as to how we have come all the long way to understand the concept of these leadership aspect. Okay, so we look towards what are the theories. The first theory, which was very close to the concept of leadership, is called behavioral theory. Okay, it's called as this theory with a concept called as the traits. The first person to come out with this concept of understanding from the behaviors, okay, was Levins. What Levins did was, okay, in his theory, he came out with two types or three types of leadership. Okay, one, autocratic; second, democratic; third, laissez-faire. Laissez-faire is a French word, okay, wherein we'll be looking towards what were the behaviors, what he meant over here. Okay. So what was the proposition of Levins was that to be a leader, you need to require some type of behaviors, okay, so that you can inspire people, you can lead them, okay, you can guide them, you can mentor them, and take them to the next level. While telling about the behaviors, he identified people or individuals behave in three ways. One, in an autocratic way; second, in a democratic way; and third one is in a laissez-faire. Okay, so when the words itself were quite explanatory for us to understand what behaviors are displayed by the leaders when they're using the philosophy of the concept that is leadership as such. Okay, so he said, someone who is an autocratic, this person, okay, or the behavior under this, okay, he is an dominating individual. He is someone who is dominating. Okay, he tries to look towards something called as one-way communication as such. Okay, so someone who is more one-way communication. Okay, one-way communication. Okay, and he believes, okay, he believes in giving orders as such. Okay, and he believes in something called as giving the orders as such. Okay, so it's called as an autocratic. Okay, it is called as a dominating kind of an behavior where it comes over there. Second is called as democratic, wherein he tries to look towards seeking suggestions, directions, and very important, participation of others. Okay, now that is called as he involves a lot of others, okay, while working in an organization. That is called as an democratic. Okay, so there is a voice of the other members and it is considered while working or doing a job in an organization. So this type of democratic is and something called as seeking suggestions, okay, seeking directions, okay, sharing and accepting their ideas and being a part of the whole system, that is called as an democratic. Okay, so when we look at a democratic kind of an economy, India is a classic example where the people have got a voice to speak, we participate in the elections, and it is a democratic kind of an environment what has been provided. Okay, the third one is called as an laissez-faire. Okay, laissez is called as okay, fair. Laissez is a combination of autocratic and democratic. So at times he uses this one, at times he uses this one. So when we look at the Levins over there, he came out with these three aspects of leadership. Okay, so when we looked at this Levins model, they are more applicable to the outer world, not only to the organization but also to other organizations as such. Okay, so when you look from the profit-making organizations, they were there, but still there was still a gap to be more confined, or the scope has to be more confined towards the aspect or the study of the behavior related to an organization. That's when the Stockdale came out, okay, with another word called as, okay, initiating structure or consideration over there. Okay, the best way of over here is, okay, he tried to look towards something called as task oriented behavior or people oriented behavior. In this leadership style, okay, the leader is displaying the philosophy of leadership based on the task, based on the task as such. Okay, it's called as task oriented behaviors. Okay, it's called as task oriented behavior. Okay, wherein he displays or he tries to give his leadership philosophy based on a very important aspect that is called as task. Okay, that is job or work, okay, process, procedure, or so on. Okay, so it's more confined to these kind of things as such. Exactly the reverse, his behavior might be confined to people. That means his philosophy of leadership, okay, is based on something called as people. Okay, that means he considers people as the most important aspect as such. Okay, and he practices the philosophy of leadership based on people orientation behaviors as such. Okay, wherein there is a word called as, okay, people are looked towards more of an important, okay, important aspect. Okay, people drive the organization and so on. So he keeps on thinking from that perspective. So for him, people are the most important aspect. Okay, people are the most important aspect. Okay, when we look towards the driving or applying the philosophy of leadership as such. When we look at this, either he is heavily concentrating on one type of behavior, either people or with the task. But in practice, when we look at this, it might not so happen over there, okay, in most of the situations as such. Okay, that's why when another research was conducted by another very renowned author called as the combination of two people. Okay, it is called as Blake and Mount. Okay, Blake and Mount as such. What they did was they created a matrix, okay, wherein they used task and people and tried to give a combination of this matrix and try to tell that we might have a combinations of task and people in this way. Okay, so what they did was at the bottom they put in something called as task, okay, and at the left hand side of the matrix they call it as people, okay, and they put it on a scale of high, moderate and low. Likewise, they did something which are called as high, moderate and low. So it might be very high on task and high on people. So they call them as 9 and 9. Okay, somebody who is low on people, okay, and also low on task, 1 1. Then somebody might be moderate, okay, on a task and moderate on people, so they call them as 5 5. Okay, likewise somebody might be very high on people, okay, and low on task as such, and the reverse might be the same. Okay, he might be very high, okay, on something called as task, okay, he might be very high on the task, or he might be low on the people over there, high on task. Okay, if you look at that combinations, we do get 5 different types of behaviors as such. Okay, so they put it on 9 9, 9 1, 1 9, 1 1 or 5 5 based on the scale. What he did was he put in a scale of 1 to 9, 1 to 9, wherein moderate was treated as 5 as such. Okay, so that is where the numbers have come, or that is where the numbers have displayed as such. Okay, that is where the numbers have displayed as such. Okay, so we do get an important input as to why these numbers have come. Okay, let's look at it. Okay, how would be one type of behavior as such? 9 9. Okay, that means the leadership is applying both the aspects, that is task as well as people. Rare combination. Okay, rare combination. Okay, we'll be looking towards the survey results as such, wherein, okay, he has used something called as the task. He is excellent at monitoring the task. He is excellent in guiding people technically, and he is also excellent in managing people as such. Okay, so that is why there is a trait that comes over something called as 9 9. Okay, he might be called over there. Then just adjacent to that box, okay, you have got someone as 9 1. He might be very good, okay, at people. Okay, that is why it is called as 9, but very low at somebody called as task as such. Okay, so he is predominantly over there called as people oriented, okay, kind of an individual. Okay, or else 1 9. Okay, he does not understand people at all, so it is 1, and but he understands the task very well, that is 9. So it is a task oriented kind of a leadership. Okay, then there is one bracket with something called as 1 1, wherein he is very low, okay, at both the ends, that is with regards to task and with regards to people as such. Okay, nor he is able to display appropriate behaviors related to the task and appropriate behaviors related to people. That's why he gets something called as a score of 1 1. Okay, and then there are few individuals, they show a moderate amount of task orientation of leadership and moderate amount of people orientation of leadership as such. Okay, so ultimately Blake and Mount came out and told that there are 5 styles, okay, based on these 2 behaviors as such. Okay, and he named them, or these two people named them with a word called as styles. Style 1, style 2, style 3, style 4, and style 5. Okay, so there are 5 styles of leadership. Okay, or there are 5 different behaviors of leadership. That is what we can look from the aspect called as task. Okay, it is not only 2, but there are 5. Okay, that is what the major contribution comes from the aspect of something called as behavioral theories as such. Okay, behavioral theories give a very interesting dimension. Okay, especially the work of the Blake and Mount. Okay, what Blake and Mount have done now is that they have developed an assessment. Okay, or else it is called as an questionnaire which evaluates individuals for any of these 5 styles, and they provide a feedback on style. Okay, on style. Okay, and based on that feedback, okay, the individuals are oriented as to what style they are applying over there. Okay, so if in a context where it is a project has to be completed and there is a time paucity, okay, or there is a time shortage, at that point of time the task leadership style will work much better rather than people over there. If a project is for a longer duration and you need to hold people, but at the same time you need to give accuracy in the results as such, okay, you need to be using something called as a combination of 9-9, wherein you need to hold the people for a long term over there, you need to orient about the task and then achieve the project completions as such. 1-1 speaks about failed leadership. Okay, it speaks about an individual might take more time, he needs to be oriented or needs to be trained on something called as leadership qualities. So it gives an insight to the organization, is an individual ready for the particular role of an leadership. So 1-1 gives appropriate insights. His style of leadership needs improvement, needs support, needs development areas, so he can be handheld by the organization as such. I am telling over here, I am not looking at something called as somebody who is a failed leadership. Reason, okay, one reason over here, okay, leadership might be poor, but technique or technical experience might be very high. Okay, so we need to have an open mind when we are understanding the concept of leadership. Okay, he might be having a very strong technical experience. Okay, but he requires a training, a handholding, or a support with regards to something called as leadership. Okay, so somebody with getting a score of 1-1, okay, who falls in this bracket of 1-1 should not be considered and told that he is not fit for the leadership. It's a wrong notion. In fact, okay, we need to look at it from an open eye or an open window or open thoughts. Okay, to look at it, his person might be very good in techniques, okay, or in technology, or might be having a very strong experience, okay, or he might be very technically competent, okay, but he requires to take the leadership role. That's why this score might have come. Okay, so we need to look towards and imagine, okay, and assume, okay, if a person is trained effectively with 1-1 on leadership qualities, okay, he will turn out to be in future with this. Reason, he knows the task very well, now he knows the people very well, so he will get converted into this. Okay, so it depends on how you look at it, the concept of it. Okay, so it's not about discarding somebody with this particular score as such. You need to look towards as potential candidate for training. He's the most potential candidate for the training. Okay, and if you train them, definitely it gets converted into an advantage, okay, which he already has, because he has an advantage of something called as technique, experience. He knows the task, what to do, how to do, when to do, okay, why to do that task. So there is one plus point which has come already over here, because he does not know how to use this, okay, while handling people, because leadership is all about inspiring others. So how to inspire people with your technical competencies has to be trained by an organization, wherein a 1-1 person can get converted into 9-1 over there. These two, okay, these two are somebody based on the task as a such. Okay, so if the task requires an immediately looking at completion over there, for some time keep us silent till that short-term project is completed from the people perspective. Concentrate on the task. Okay, and if it requires to handhold people on a longer duration because of external situation, hold on people for a long term, okay, or for the short duration of that particular duration, and less on task. So these are two are situational based kind of an style which are temporary in nature over there. Okay, 5-5 is someone who is trying to make a mediocre kind of an behavior as such. Okay, but we need to look towards training employees using this behavior to achieve 9-9 over there. Okay, that will give a lot of better results, okay, with applying the concept of the Blake and Mount leadership concept. Okay, so behavioral theory, okay, from Levins to Stockdale to Blake and Mount, okay, give altogether a different dimension of understanding the behaviors as such. Okay, so this is called as understanding behavioral model. Okay, this is called as understanding behavioral model. Okay, and when we look at it, even today, these models have not evaporated. They're still very much existing. Okay, and we can visualize them, we can see them, okay, we can feel them in many of the organizations as such. Okay, now when we look at it, okay, a very important thing, okay, 9-1, okay, or where people were 9 and task was 1 during COVID. Okay, companies are having a lot of problems as such. Okay, but the orders are not there, the task is low, but companies have taken measures to hold people for because they know the COVID situation is a short term, maybe an year or a two, okay, wherein they might come out with an appropriate solution for that COVID epidemic, okay, and then the business will go on. So right now, most of the leaders are displaying something called as 9 on people and 1 on task over there. Okay, they are holding people as such. Now this is called as use of temporary mechanism of leadership style. Somebody might be very high on 9 and 9, but he has changed his style to 9-1. Okay, now it's due to this kind of a scenario as such. Okay, and few companies, okay, if you look at it, those are in the essential commodities over there. There is a huge spike, or those who are in medical, okay, there is a huge spike of medical equipments, medicines, and so on. For them, people consideration is less, task consideration is more. Reason, they have to save lives of the people. Okay, they have to save the lives of people. So for them, 9 would be the task and 1 would be the people over there. So these manufacturing companies, okay, these manufacturing companies are more into task oriented. And once the things are normalized, again they might come to another state and style of leadership that is called as 9-9 or 5-5. Okay, but today these medical companies are on leadership style of 1, high on task and low on people. Reason, it is not about looking at the profitability, but looking at the scenario. There is an urgent demand for medicines, equipments because of the COVID-19 as such. So for them, task is more important for them. Task is more important than for them. So even the employees, when a leader displays this, they accept it, because they know the external environments are demanding as such. Okay, and they also cooperate. So even when they follow the leadership style of task 9 and 1 on a particular aspect on a people, the people or the employees do understand why this leadership style is displayed by them or the leaders as such. Reason, there is a demand for it. and there is the need for the hour when you find as a such. So this is how, when we look at the behaviors, they switch on from one behavior to another behavior. So switching is quite possible. Okay, switching is there. Okay, switching is another part of it. Okay, that is called as the Blake and Mount kind of an behavior as such. Okay. Next one was developed by the Fiedler. Okay, he said there is another word which comes in as a situation. Okay, those are called as contingencies. Okay, so this is a psychological word wherein it is called as contingency. In a simple language, it is called as difficult. Okay, those are called as difficult situations. Okay, it's called as difficult situations. Okay, in difficult situations, should we apply task-oriented kind of a behavior or people-oriented kind of a behavior? Okay, now that is where the problem starts happening. Okay, so he says, in most of the work situation, Fiedler tells over there, in most of the work situation, contingencies or difficulties do crop up or arise very frequently. Reason being the dynamic environment of business. Okay, the dynamism with related to the business environment. That is called as contingency or difficulty with regards to the individuals, okay, working in the organization. He said, okay, we need to, when there is a contingency, okay, we need to do certain things so that we display the right behavior during contingency. Okay, now I'm making a simple process over here. We need to display right behavior in contingency. I'm repeating, we need to display right behavior during difficult times. Okay, so as a leader, you need to develop certain things and try to do these behaviors. Firstly, when there is a contingency or a difficulty, the leadership should be able to speak about effectiveness of task and people. That means during contingency time also, we must not deteriorate on quality or the output as such. Okay. Now, there is a contingency or there is a shortage of the products called as, okay, medical products, maybe paracetamols or so on. Okay. They cannot deteriorate with regards to the quality of the products. Reason, the product is consumed by somebody who is already sick. Okay, so in this kind of contingency situation over there, okay, task and people, both the behaviors should be effective. Okay, that is where it is called as effective. Okay, it's called as effectiveness comes into the picture. Okay, very important aspect over there. Okay, so Fiedler tells over there, during contingency time, you must not deteriorate with regards to task nor with people, as it might influence on something called as quality. Okay, another classic case, okay, where you find today, when we find with the COVID, I'm taking COVID situation because it is a contingent situation right now which we are facing, okay, in across the world over there. Okay, and we are the part of this contingencies. Okay, so when we look at this contingency over there, okay, and we are consuming a very another important component, okay, it's called as food grains or our day-to-day consumptions, the FMCG products. Okay, there would be a demand for it. Okay, and during that time, okay, the consumption must not get hampered, okay, with regards to FMCG products. Okay, so I'm taking a company which is into logistics. When lockdown happened, the logistics was one of the important issues. Okay, that is where the companies supplied our day-to-day need products. Okay, and people who do that were protected over there. Now that is where the effectiveness came over there, and that is where during lockdown we were able to receive the products right in time, and there was no shortage of FMCG products to the normal consumers as such. That is called as handling contingency situations over there. Okay, that is called as handling contingency situation. Okay. Second, you need to handle it with another word called as awareness. You want to make the people work in a contingent situation, or you need to hold people over there. Okay, how we can do it over there is through one important tool called as communication, and use this communication to create another word called as awareness. You need to make people aware about the situation. Okay, reason, many of the people who are working under you, okay, under a leader, might not be completely aware about that situation. Okay, might not be completely thought, or they do not have a thought process from the perspective of the organization, from the perspective of the consumers, from the perspective of the society as such. Okay, why we need to look at it. Okay, this would make people prepare, okay, on both the aspect, that is task, high on task and high on people during contingency. Okay, so something called as, you need to make the people aware. Okay, very important over there. So Fiedler tells that it is not only looking at a contingent situation, but it is also about making people aware about what is that difficult situation, what the company is facing, and why they need to work on that particular contingent situation as such. Okay, that is, and it comes through only the word called as awareness. Third one, okay, you need to make people think on available resources. That means when there is a contingent situation is there will be definitely a problem of something called as resources. Okay, so you need to coordinate them to make them think, okay, on how to handle the resources which are available as such. Okay, you need to make people or the employees aware that with limited resources you need to be high on task, and with limited resources you need to be high on people. So it is also a challenge for leadership also, okay, wherein he might be having limited number of people and limited number of resources. Okay, now when the lockdown changed, okay, from the third lockdown came in, they made the people or the employees to join with 33%. Now that is where less number of people, okay, less number of people, but there is a task which was very high, so people are making from work from home, but from a manufacturing company there was a demand, so they had to handle with whatever resources they are available with them, and they were able to complete it. Okay, that's called as think. Make the employees think and make them aware on the available resources and try to achieve or try to reduce the contingency over there. Okay, he said resource of a leader to make the people group in a group behavior. So ultimately when the contingencies are coming over there, the leader has to make the people work in a group. During contingency situation, chances are there of something called as conflict. He has to see to it that the team, okay, need not get indulged with the word called as conflict. As it is, there is something called as a difficult situation. This difficult situation must not add into one more difficult situation. Okay, so it is the role of the leader as to how he tries to look towards these resources, okay, and tries to look towards reducing the conflicts, okay, in an group or in a team as such. Okay, so Fiedler was the first one who spoke about something called as, okay, he spoke about these aspects of contingencies. Okay, to this, there's another theory which came in called as path goal theory. There are contingent situations. Okay, what this theory tells that if they apply right style of leadership, okay, which might be in the form of directive, supportive, participative, achievement oriented, okay, they would be able to achieve the goal. That means there is a path, and that path is called as style of leadership. Okay, and if you appropriately apply the right style of leadership during contingency situation, you'll be able to achieve the goal as a such. Okay, they'll be able to achieve the goals as a such. Okay, that is called as path goal. Okay, path is a style. Okay, and the goal as a such. Okay, so that is how we try to look towards something called as path or the goal in an situation as a such. Okay, then the next one came over there. Okay, is called as, it is not only about the styles, okay, but how a leader views the situations or functions over there. Okay, so it is not only about something called as understanding in from the point of view. So it was about, okay, there is a path through over there, but also many a times when difficult situation come, okay, in an organization, okay, many a times we may not be able to understand, okay, may not be able to understand the situation as such. Okay, so a leader needs to understand the situation. One, two, okay, leader based on the situation, okay, needs to guide people. And three, apply right style of leadership. Okay, now look at it. Okay, so when we assemble and all these things over there, so how contingency theory has come out over there. Okay, one, contingency is difficult situation. To handle difficult situation, you need to look towards people, you need to look towards the task. You need to create awareness, you need to make the people think about the resources, what is available, and you need to reduce the conflicts. This can be achieved by using a right path, that is a style of leadership. Then only the goal should be there. And the most important component is that the leader needs to understand the situation and he needs to look towards guiding people, applying the right style of leadership. So contingency theory is a very important theory wherein it tells to a leader how to handle contingency situations as a such. Okay, contingency leadership as a such. Okay, so that is how we look towards understanding the word called as leadership as a such. Okay, with this today we'll stop over here. Okay, in the next class we'll try to look towards the new theories, okay, of leadership. Okay, new theories of leadership.